Welcome back to Beyond the Monsters. This is part 2 with Trevor Beaman.
Made it.
Trigger warning: sexual assault, abuse, suicidal ideation, drug use, violence, and other explicit content. Part 2.
Right. So we left off was in my master's program at Fort Bragg, and
Yes.
drinking a lot more wine and writing a lot more. And I find myself on, this 3 days of alcohol binge drinking. And I find myself at the hospital trying to decide, like, what choice am I going to make at this day? And is it to me to, like, go on these drop zones out where all the paratroopers drove out and somehow kill myself, or walk into the ER and like ask for help? And I remember being in my car, and I was in my wife's Volkswagen Jetta, and I was listening to all these like bluegrass sad ass songs, and it's like Mumford and Sons is playing, like The Cave, and I'm just like, man, like, this music has just got me down. I'm drinking vodka out of a bottle, and I'm crying, like, like I can, like, just like when I was 12, I can feel like my face, everything's wet. So I can't stop crying because I'm thinking about what it was like to be a kid. I think about what it's like going to war. My daughter, she's about a year old at this time. Been married almost 4 years. 5 years at this point. And I don't feel any love for any of it. I just have this sadness and deep anger in me that I want it all to end. I want the pain in my body to end. I don't see the value of living at this moment, of being drunk, sad music, and I just realized, like, I'm gonna try and give it a chance, give life like one more chance and see how it goes. And so I walk into the hospital, and as I've been crying, like, my eyes are like bloodshot, everything's swollen. And this little nurse, almost the size of like my mom, she just looks up at me and goes, "You need some help, don't you?" And once again, it's like, yeah, if someone was there again. And they put an IV in me and gave me fluids, and once again, this is like around Thanksgiving, October, November, that life was hard. And hard enough, I almost took my life. And I was, placed in the psych ward for 3 days, and I talked about how much I drank, and I talked about substance abuse, not so much shooting up. I didn't really talk about that. I didn't open that up too much, to be that vulnerable at that moment. And talking to psychologists and everything about my life, kind of like we've done today. And this young lieutenant, right out of college, goes, "I think you can fix all your problems by just quitting drinking."
Oh.
Oh. I was like, "I don't think it's alcohol." But yeah, it just been like, get sober and everything will get better. Well, Marshall shows up, who's my commander, and I tell him, "Marshall, this is what's going on."
Now, you guys are very close.
Yeah, and
right? Ish.
Kind of. We kind of are like work friends, but not close.
Okay.
Like I'm not hanging out with him on the weekend. We don't play golf or
Okay.
have drinks together. It's not that kind of way. But he had been through some really hard stuff as a detachment commander, and he was a black kid from Georgia, I believe, that went to West Point, and he didn't fit in there. And that's kind of like how I think he fit in, um, made it into SF. Is that
Okay.
he's kind of the outsider.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful person, and I tell him like, this is what's going on, and this is what I've been through, Marshall. And he goes, listen, Trevor's gonna come home with me, and we need to get him help with all this shit as a kid in the war. And I want to hear you talk to him again about alcohol. Yeah, and then I left the hospital that day. And I started doing all of the weekly meetings, and I was just kind of like did all of the protocols to like not be deemed as non-deployable. So because I had a suicidal ideation event,
Right.
the Army, and it absolutely is okay with their decision to say like, hey, I don't think you should go anywhere for a year, and that you shouldn't fire guns, you shouldn't jump out of airplanes. Like at the time I was really pissed
Right.
because in my heart, I'm like, I'm going to go get help. Just like everyone's telling me to go get help, and there will be no consequences.
Right.
There is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's to cover their ass. And it's valid, and it's real, and it's okay. Don't be upset about that.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that that's why a lot of people don't ask for help in the military because of the consequences?
Yeah, guys want to keep doing the same job in the Army.
Right.
It doesn't mean the Army wants to get rid of you. That's it. I want to keep doing this specific job in this specific room that go to specific countries to do an exceptional job.
Right.
I want to keep doing that. I don't want to go to managing or training
Right.
things.
Okay.
Which takes a little bit more time to engulf and understand inside me. But what I get is that I have to show the boys that you can ask for help and go back.
Right.
So even though I wasn't serving me at any point at this moment, I'm doing it for everyone else. It kind of goes into like, I'm going to go say something for other people. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go fight for other people. Right. I'm still not at the point where I'm fighting for myself yet.
Right.
Right. And I do it. I go back to group after finishing my master's degree. And because I did that, they asked me to go to Africa on a single person deployment to work with the French Special Forces in this small country called Burkina Faso. It doesn't really matter for the story, but I had to get a waiver from my commander to go because I was still within that 12-month period.
Okay.
And because I was doing all the behavioral health, mental health meetings, and I was showing progression from that event of wanting to take my life, that I showed the USASOC psychiatrist, the guy basically who oversees like approvals for these waivers, is that like, you have done the work. Mm-hmm. I can see that you are getting better. We will approve you to go deploy.
So you showed progression and
right.
doing better.
So
yeah.
showing up for yourself or for the Army or for your team, and there's data to prove it, we'll let you go again. And so I was able to go. My son, Benjamin, is born in August, and I leave in October.
Oh.
Wonderful. I right before I leave, it's of course October, right? Again, and in North Carolina, it's there's these festivals and farms have corn mazes and things as such, and I'm on this big like trampoline as like what do you call it, like a pad that you can like jump on these farms kind of thing. It's
Like
like
a
an air mattress
bounce house type
yeah,
thing?
but it's not. But it's not that. It's like it's just like a plastic piece of whatever. I'm bouncing on this thing with my daughter up and down, right? And I see her hair like flying around,
Yeah.
and I'm like, "This is great." I see my wife over there, and she's holding our son, and this is awesome. But then I like double bounce her on this thing, and she flies in the air, and she lands on her leg, and I just see her face turn red, and then I hear the screaming. I look at my wife, and I kind of like look away real fast, and she's like, "You just broke her leg, didn't you?"
Oh,
I'm
gosh.
like, "No, she's gonna be fine." So the next day, I take her to the hospital, and she has a broken leg.
Oh, no.
A week later, I leave. So I left my wife with a 2-year-old with a broken leg and a 2-month-old. Shit. And so I go there, and it's a quick deployment, but there's something that happens there that I realize that it's time to make a change in life. We get a mission to go find one of the high value targets in Mali, and I'm watching the video of this insurgent terrorist shooting at the French helicopter, and all I see is like this explosion, and I thought he had like a suicide vest on, but really it was one of the grenades from the helicopter hit him in his face and blew his like face off. And I'm like, I'm watching this, and I'm thinking about my kids, and I was like, I'm just not in the business of killing people anymore. Like I can't do this. I was like, I was in the hospital, I got better, and I can't do it. I got to find something else. And luckily, I not luckily, but I got hurt. I hurt my back working out, and I got sent home early. And as soon as I got home, I talked to the commander and the sergeant major, and I was like, I want to go to SWIC, which is the training school, that the pipeline for the Green Berets to go through. And I said, I want to go to Key West and be a dive instructor. And I'm gonna do whatever I can to get there. And so I got home in January, and in July we had moved our family to Key West. And life has a way of changing on you.
Sure
Kind of when
does.
you live in a new place, you kind of see the world a little different, because when I was gone in Africa, I didn't realize how much like my wife was doing. She'd quit her job. She was home alone. We didn't have any family around. And this woman just never spoke about how hard it was and how it was to manage the kids, and never said a damn thing. She was just proud that she had a husband that was alive and that was doing something awesome. And she was just happy I was around. But I wasn't fully like understanding of what she was going through.
Right.
I didn't have the empathy or the realization of it. So we moved to Key West, and it's a lot of work to work down there. It's understaffed, a lot of hours.
I bet.
This school is Special Forces Dive School is very, very intensive 6-week school in a party town where guys get to go drink on the weekends and have fun. And, I kind of got into that on the weekends and drinking a lot more than I was. And then going out fishing and stuff on the weekends, and I kind of fell into this old routine of just getting by and just the day to day and just living. And then I meet my friend Curtis Kellum while I'm there, and my wife goes to the CrossFit gym and she's working out and she makes all these friends. And so because she makes friends, I have friends, which is really nice. Thankful for her for that, because I don't have anybody in my life if I didn't have her. She seems to make my friends for me. Kind of happens. I start to see that each of us need to have a hour of a day to like fill our cups up, so that we can continue just living a good life. And so she does CrossFit and I start spearfishing while I'm down there, and I love it. It's probably spend at least an hour a day in the ocean, swimming and finning and catching fish. And it's nice because it's like I'm providing food for my family and exercise. And there's a thing that's happening that I don't realize at the moment that I'm there that's really critical. But at the same time, I'm still like drinking a lot, and I'm using it to manage all the stress of my life and what I've been through in the past. And it's not the best coping mechanism, but it's a mechanism to use when you don't have anything else.
Right.
But I start to realize when I'm spearfishing, like when I'm holding my breath and diving under to the reef and looking and hunting for fish, I can't think about anything else. I'm totally present in that moment right there. There's no past and there's no future. It's right now. And it took me about 2 years of spearfishing to see this like accidental mindfulness was happening. My wife was getting this doing CrossFit, and I was getting it by holding my breath under the ocean. But, for some reason, life has a way of reintroducing itself to you. Because for me, the biggest impact of who I am is feedback from my wife. And what I heard her say is that you're not needed in this family. And
is she always brutally honest with you?
yeah, but it wasn't that. She's more of like, I think I can expect more out of you in this family, and not in a, like, let's start building this team together. And all I heard is that you're not good enough. If that's not what she said though, but that's all I felt. And she went upstairs to put the kids to bed, and I wrote a note and said, tell the kids I love them, and I left. I took my skateboard and I went downtown, and I was going to drink myself to death and go into the ocean and never come home. And so this is like in the spring this time though, of 2019.
What were you thinking when you left? Like, now you know what she said and that she didn't mean it that way, but do you remember why was that in your head?
I just felt like I would never be a good enough father, because before we had gotten married and stuff, I was like, I don't think I want kids. I don't think that, like, I'm afraid of it.
Right.
In so many ways. Like, I don't know if I trust myself. I don't know, like, I don't know if someone did something to my kid, like if I fucking kill him.
Right.
Like,
right.
I don't want that, to ever think about that. And she's just like continued on, like, you are going to be the best father ever. But I was like, no one showed me how to be a dad.
Sure.
Ever. So what the fuck? I don't
Well,
even
it's
know
not
where
like
to
you had
even
a role
start.
model,
Right.
or
That's
just
right. I wasn't shown that, and I don't know what to do with kids. And like, I don't know if I would, like, I don't know. And she's like, you are an amazing person, and I think that this would be really good for you. And I'm like, okay, fine. Not like that, but
yeah, yeah,
like, I conceded to you. You convinced me that yes, that is true about who I am. And so she's the one thing that when I feel as if like she's judging me or telling me something, like it's the one thing that like cuts through me. Out of everything that I have gone through my life, that's the thing, the one that I just can't bear. And she knows that, and she tends not to say things in the past, not so much now, but in the past where she was like, I'm not going to tell him this because he might not come home.
right.
And so now she lives with a guy that she can't be fully open with about how she feels about anything, because she's afraid that it's
Afraid,
going to
yeah,
like, something's going to happen to me where I'm just going to like hear it as like, you don't belong here.
right.
You don't deserve to live. Get out of our house. And there's none of that ever happening.
So she's probably tiptoeing a
Yeah. So
lot.
now she's doing that all the time. And she's like, I can't take it anymore. And so I get hurt on a dive because I got a hole in my heart, whatever. It doesn't need to be too serious conversation there, but essentially they tell me that I have to go to rehab because I told the doctor that I had this event that I was, because my wife's calling everyone, where the fuck is Trevor? And so like, we have friends that are police officers, friends that are at the dive school, all of them are in Key West trying to find me.
Oh, geez.
Right. And they
Yeah.
like, come the fuck home. And I'm like, okay, like, I'm tired of it all, man. Once again, it's like 3 or 4 years later. I'm like, the same feelings are coming back. The world is dark. I'm drunk and I don't want to live. And I come back home, and it's just, so it gets reported that this happens. So as a diver, you can't have like alcohol abuse disorder on your record without treatment.
Okay.
So I have to go to a treatment center because of this. But then I get hurt on a dive and they find out I can't dive anymore. And I was like, fuck that. I'm not going to rehab.
Right. Right.
I don't need to go
Right.
because I can't dive anymore.
Right.
And the doc looks at me with this sly, he's like, come the fuck on, Trevor. You got problems. Go get help. Fine. Hands up. You're right. I'll go back. I go to rehab the 14th of July, 2019. And I'm there for about a week in this cover your ass Army Navy program that they sent me there for 2 weeks. That was going to do like a total of like 8 hours of training about alcohol, drugs. And I'm like, I'm going to be here that long and I'm going to get that much hours of one-on-one training. Like, this is bullshit. Pissed. Like, you took me away from my family for this?
Right.
No. And I'm mad as all. And I don't get very upset or angry. But I was like, I just started doing the math in my head. I was like, no, this doesn't work. I don't like this. And then I'm just like, you took me away from my kids for this. And then I'm mad. And now I'm sober. And I have free time. And I'm driving around Jacksonville, Florida in my car. And all of a sudden I start to feel exactly how I feel and have felt when I was 12 again. And I was like,
Just out of nowhere.
out of nowhere, sober. This is the main point here. Because usually since I was 12, it happened because I was drinking.
Right.
And I hadn't had anything to drink. And it was more powerful this time than just like it was when I was 12. I was like, I'm in so much pain. I've been through so much stuff. I just can't bear it. And the love that I had for my kids, this life, my wife, was all gone. I didn't feel it. I was like, I'm going to drive my car into a tree as fast as I can without my seatbelt on, and I'm going to kill myself. I'm done with all this. I'm done with this fucking life. But I was like, I went again. I'm like, it almost feels like a cry for help on all these things, like trying to finally find the right answer. It feels that way a lot. It was like, I'm doing these things just to fucking help me kind of thing, right? But it's in like 4-year like increments. And so I go to the counselor and I was like, listen, here's what's going to have to happen today. I was like, if you don't get me into the hospital right now, you're never going to see me again. Can we do that? It's like, all right. And I got admitted into the hospital, another psych ward visit. And
This is Florida, right?
Yeah.
So were you getting Baker acted?
No, I didn't. Well, I mean, I guess you can, but it's self Baker Act.
Yeah.
It wasn't that. It's self.
Yeah.
Baker Act is like when someone else thinks you're going to harm yourself and you can't do anything about it. I was like,
You're
I'm
straight
gonna harm
telling
myself.
them. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
put me here. So I got put in a safe place for a few days, and while I'm there, my friend Curtis kills himself. And I'm on the phone with my wife. And she's like, he shot himself. He's dead. I'm like, fucking, are you kidding me? So I'm like, well, he knew I was safe. Son of a bitch. And so a little bit there happens to fall into me about like one of us is going to have to die. It was him or me. To kind of justify what happened in my own like brain. And so I'm in a psych ward. My second best friend just killed himself. I'm all alone. Like they take all your like things, and I'm just like, I got it. I need something more than what's going on. And so there's a doctor there that's like, oh, I see all this stuff. What's wrong with you? They're like, we have a treatment center on the other side of Florida in Panama City Beach that does all of this stuff in one place. Do you want to go? Yeah, let's go. Fuck.
Why not?
Why not?
Yeah.
So I get admitted into an inpatient program, and I do all the cognitive behavioral therapist stuff, therapy. I do mindfulness training. I do peaceful visualization stuff, but the biggest piece is EMDR I do. And this, eye movement desensitization stuff, it's essentially, it's like you're going to talk about and write about all the things that you've ever been through in your life. And you're going to take, because they're become so vivid in your brain, they are going to put you in a sleepy trance-esque thing, REM, eyes moving thing. It's going to bounce back and forth. And you're going to, for me, they're going to like, we're going to put these images on a drive-in movie theater. You're going to watch it happen. Oh, I'm going to
You're like,
do
oh
what?
shit. What?
Right. And so now I'm 39 years old, and there's a lady in front of me asking me, tell me exactly what happened to you on that bed. And I did it 3 times a week for 8 weeks. One day I was able to get over. And it's the same thing I told you. We would change it from color to black and white, to zooming in, to zooming out, different angles. But the best part about all of the EMDR is the very last session I had. And she conjured up through talking and setting the stage for like me returning home, and I see like this beautiful white farmhouse with the huge grass. You know, it's like flowing green grass, and there's like a white fence that goes down the side, and there's 4 white rocking chairs there, and 3 of them, all right, my wife and my 2 kids are sitting, and there's an empty chair there, and I'm looking out into the field through their perspective, right? And I'm like watching this on the screen in my brain, and while I'm like doing EMDR, and there's like a taxi coming down the gravel road, and you can like see the dust like coming up in the background, and it's not like overly fast, but not like super slow, and like I see myself come out of the taxi, and I'm like walking up to the house, and I look at them, and like I'm, you know, they're up higher, I'm lower because of the stairs, you know, to get into the house, and I look at them and said, I'm finally home. And what EMDR did with the trauma from the monster of that man is made that memories of that time not so painful and sharp. It dulled it enough to live with.
So it didn't take over.
Right.
Yeah.
It made it so it just made it like going to prom in high school with your girlfriend. Like you remember going, but it's not that big a deal.
Right.
It doesn't hurt. Like,
right.
Okay, like it's there. I can picture it going there and dressing up in your tux and having the little flower that's canted wrong and like all this shit.
Yeah.
Right. And it feels like that now or then, right? It gets better though. Like, and so there's so much time to heal from one event.
Right.
And so if you have 50 events, right, that's 100 weeks. That's over, that just shy of 2 years. And that's you did it every day.
Right.
Nobody has the time or money to do that. Like I'm also on all kinds of psych medications at the same time, like losing my mind. Like
right.
These sessions, like I have such migraines because I'm like using so much of my brain and energy of my body that I have to get like Finnegan shots. It's I have to sleep. I end up sleeping for like 18 hours. And I realized like, because I wasn't sleeping as a kid, I wasn't getting the rest for my brain to heal from these injuries. And so I was like, fine. So what happened was I was watching this event happen to me, and then I would sleep, and it would just slowly dissipate. Every time I'd go through it, it was really vivid at the beginning. I could almost feel like his body on me, like when like semen on my face, I could feel it like coming like on me again, like going through these sessions. Like it's so powerful. Like if you're gonna go through EMDR, like do it at a safe facility. Don't do it outpatient unless it's something that you can like you don't feel a lot of pain from.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna put you in a suicidal state.
Sure.
For sure. Because you're like reliving everything every day. And it's heavy and it's hard, and you gotta get sleep, and you gotta eat good food, and someone has to watch over you.
Right.
And we did it, and I did all of that yoga, all of this AA. I got into Alcoholics Anonymous there, Narcotics Anonymous, and I started to build those daily kind of like routines of getting help and those types of environments, which I brought home with me, was to go to these meetings. And so at this point, when I leave the hospital, I get promoted to Master Sergeant while I'm in rehab. What? Right? So they're like,
right.
Wait, you're telling me you have all these problems in your life, but we're going to give you one of the best ranks
Right.
as a Green Beret is the Master Sergeant.
I just saw that on SEAL Team last night. Master Sergeant, they were talking about it.
And so that happened. So it's a big win. And then I get a phone call from the Care Coalition, like, do you want to get out of the Army? Like, you have enough stuff that, like, we can medically retire you and you're done. I have a long conversation with my wife about this, and she goes, you know what, Trevor? She's like, I think it means more to you to just retire normally.
Not like medically,
Yeah,
right?
just like
right.
do your 20 years, not 16 and a half. Do your 20 years. She's like, I think that's would be better for you. And I said, all right. This is like, I'm going to have to tell him I'm never going back to another ODA, and I'm never going to kill anybody again. And if they're cool with that, then I figure the Army would be able to find a place for me
Right.
somewhere. I was like, I'll go anywhere. I just got to put in 4 more years and I'll retire. I'll do any job. And wherever that is, I'll go. That's what I will give to you. If I'm going to say I'm not going to do something, then I'm at the needs of the Army, and I'm
Right.
fine with that. And so is my family. And so we left Key West, and I went back to Fort Bragg, and I worked at SOCOM at Bragg for 2 years. So I was the whole retrograde of Afghanistan, saw all that happen. Not a big deal. But at that same time, I meet my friend Jeff Dardia, who's a part of Task Force Dagger, and he's really big into wellness and recovery, and he does a lot of awesome things in this space. And he mentions my name to this Dr. Lipoff guy out of Chicago, who does the dual sympathetic ganglion block in your neck for fight or flight, sympathetic nervous system overload, right? And he also does ketamine.
Okay.
And so I go to Chicago. I go back. So I hadn't been back to Chicago since I was 18. So I go back to Chicago. I actually have to go to an Amen clinic that's up in Northbrook, which is the neighborhood north of where I grew up. And I actually have to drive by the trailer park and the church.
Were you worried about triggers?
Yeah. But this is before, so I go up there to get my brain scan. I'm just driving through, and I'm like, man, I tell myself, if this is going to be the end, I have to say goodbye to all this stuff. And so I intentionally went by to say, I'm done. I'm completely done with all of this in my life. And so, and then that Monday morning, I got my first infusion of ketamine. And it was one of the most wonderful things I've ever had happen again, right? So there's, first off, right, setting up an IV to be put into my veins is exhilarating. Again, to watch medicine going through my veins like it had done before by myself, I was like, yes.
Right.
This goes back to the first time anyone ever touched me, to the first time I ever stuck a needle on my arm. I'm like, this is going to be, I love it. And I'm addicted to it. Just the prick into my veins. But then the ketamine warms you up like my mom or my wife taking out this warm blanket out of the dryer on a cold day, rainy day, and she like wraps our kids up in it, and I can just see how comfortable it is. It's exactly the same feeling of like mom's taking care of me, and it's great. It's the same thing as what heroin does and other opiates. It makes, that's the beginning, like the first, like awesome. So you feel this warmth all over your body, and then all the pain in your body goes away. Your knees, back, elbows, all of it. Pain is gone. The same drive to get high. Is I want to take away all the pain. But as the ketamine gets into your body, it starts to elevate you as a person, right? It starts to elevate you in your soul and your mind. Starts to almost feel like it's coming out of your body. And then, so you feel out of place, right? So your body feels catatonic in a way that you can't move around because that's what the dissociative
Right.
aspect of ketamine has in it. And then if you close your eyes just a little bit, you start to wander into the Milky Way, at least for me. And
So you're not like panicking at all because
no,
you don't have control
Right.
or, okay.
and the total time is only like 45 minutes.
Okay.
But it feels way longer than that. Like time slows down
Yeah.
and it's all in your brain there. I didn't have a therapist. I didn't have anybody in the room with me. I was all alone. I'm grateful that I've been through years of therapy to be able to talk to myself through
Right.
this and see the images in my mind and be able to navigate the horrors, the awesome back to horrors, like are happening like really
Right.
fast.
Right.
You're getting like images like bah, 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 and you're trying to process it all at once. And then you get to this calmness of like, I felt like I was in like a astronaut suit with a surfboard on a wave in the middle of space.
Okay.
Yeah. But all of the text messages, emails, all the things of life went away. I was the only human being on this earth. But then it feels like all of the roots of all the trees are connected to you. Every living life being there is intertwined into who you are. And at that moment, I finally like look at myself and say, you're worth living and you're worth loving. And that's the moment where I recognize that like my life is worth living for and that I got to take care of me for the first time. And I was like, that's it. I see it now. I see that I'm capable of loving myself, which I didn't have.
That's the first time you felt that.
Yeah. And it sucks that a drug had to do it. And I hate that.
Yeah. But
And I want my kids to feel loved without drugs.
yeah, but they have a whole different upbringing,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
and they have you, a person who has lived it.
It's the generational change. And to know I made the difference. I made the change. And it wasn't alone. I had a lot of people that helped to get there.
But you had to be the one to make the choice to go to these things, to try these things.
Yep.
If you wouldn't have.
And so I walked out of it. I sobered up and was able to move again. And I walked out of it and I was like, that is the most amazing thing that I've ever experienced.
And have you
The
had
healthiest, most like, aha, this is what life's about. Like, and the next morning I woke up the first time since I was 12 and I was like 41 at the time, where the first time I didn't think about was murdering this man who touched me. And I was like, I looked at myself in the mirror again and I said, I forgive you. And not him. I forgive you, Trevor, for how much time you gave to this person.
yeah.
And you don't have to do that anymore. And I felt finally, like I was finally destroyed the walls in my brain that I had built for myself to keep me in a prison and keep a monster in my brain that didn't need to live there anymore. I didn't need to feed it. I said, you're gone. You won't be in my life anymore. And I had to say, like, I love you. Thank you for this, but it's time to move on. And so then I got another infusion, and as the days went by, it got less and less intense and stuff. But I did the dual sympathetic reset ganglion block on my right side first, and then my left. And what that allowed is like being way far hyperarousal to kind of like reset.
Right.
And it allowed me to like take a real deep breath with tools of therapy to implement into my life.
Right.
That is, I think, can go on for a lifetime, but year by year, I can feel like just being a man, I guess, is there's testosterone in my body, and I think it just naturally you have this desire to be a protector. And I think that reset kind of goes back somewhere in the middle because I think it pacifies you a bit for a little while.
Right.
Where you don't want to really just be a fighter or anything like that. You just
Right.
kind of just want to work on self and just be kind of peaceful, at least peaceful inside.
You needed that.
And then it kind of elevates back to where you should normally operate at. We left there, and then we moved down to Destin, where we live now. And this last little bit has been a really awesome time to say goodbye to the Army, to really grieve my career, because I didn't want to spend my retirement saying goodbye to a job that I was no longer in. So
Well, it was so much a part of your identity, for so long.
So then this identity crisis happens, right? That's a thing, right? It's why like at 40, like why are you having what's going on?
Yeah.
It's I think you've looked at your 20s and 30s and said like you did this awesome job, high performing job, whatever that is, and then now you're going to move on to something different, and you have to grieve that last portion of your life, and then we're going to go be something new. I think that's fair and valid, and I just don't want guys not to have the hope that they need to say goodbye to that job, because
for the transition and
I don't think you can do it alone.
Right.
There's too many high intense moments through that 20 years just to be like, bye.
Yeah. Like, is it hard to not have all those rushes and like, that, and being intense, like you said, to go to normal life and your family? Like, do you still want to chase that in a way?
Right. It's like chasing everything, though. You wish you could go back to do some things. The way that feels is wonderful. To be able to help people again, to fly in helicopters, to shoot at bad people. Like I feel you can miss it. Or you can say goodbye to it. And I'm not going to miss it. Because there's other things to exhilarate you in life. You just got to be willing to see it.
You have to be open to it. And
maybe you got to become a part of something else.
Right.
Maybe you haven't opened your heart to humanity yet.
Maybe you need to write a book.
So here, I'll tell you, write a book, right? Write it is if you're going to write a book, write it for other people. Don't write a book for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
This wasn't therapy for me. This was so that other people don't feel alone
Mm-hmm.
in their life. So that, because I didn't have anyone as a kid, so I could be like, who's gone through something like me that is a high achieving person
Mm-hmm.
that has become wonderful and is open and honest and
Yeah.
real about all the real deep feelings about, like, it felt really good to be abused. Like, I wanted it to happen. But I was 10.
And it was the only attention you were getting.
Yeah. And as a child, like, I thrive on being seen.
Mm-hmm.
And for just so long, I just
I think most
wasn't.
people do, right?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be seen.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you're playing football in 7th grade and you make an awesome play and recover the fumble to win the game, and you look over to the sideline and your dad's not there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how many times I got to keep looking at the sideline and he's never there
Right.
before I stop? And that's kind of like what happened, is that my family just stopped being there for me.
Mm-hmm.
But other people were.
I love that.
And it feels really good to be a part of a community that care about who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's from, going to concerts, it's going to the
Right.
CrossFit gym, it's going to the beach.
Mm-hmm.
It's for some people, maybe it's going to church.
Right.
But you got to surround yourself with people.
Right.
You got to go find something you're bad at to be good at again. Learn something new.
Mm-hmm.
s- you know, if you need a place to talk, like, there's AA meetings and
They're
NA meetings.
everywhere.
If you can't afford therapy, like, that's a good start.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just go and be around people
Right.
that want to change their lives
Yeah.
and learn how to tell your story.
And a lot of people, they're afraid to tell their story, and AANA, you can just listen.
Yeah.
They can start by listening.
The best piece of advice I have about you thinking that anybody cares about your story is that they don't. Because most people just want to care about themselves,
Mm-hmm.
which is really important. You must care about yourself.
Right.
But people want to, like, if you've been, I don't know how long we've been talking for. I've been talking for a while.
Yeah.
And so if you can do that, if you
Mm-hmm.
can finally get to a place where I'm going to tell some stranger, like, the one advice my mother gave me that I hold deeply in my heart, she goes, Trevor, she's like, you're never going to get over this abuse until you can walk up to any person on the street and tell them exactly what you went through.
Mm.
And I think there's a lot of truth in that.
Yeah.
It's that, stop being afraid to talk about your life.
Mm-hmm.
Stop being afraid to talk about the things that hurt you. Like, if you hurt someone else's feelings, that's not your fault.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to take ownership of that. They do.
Right.
Find places and people that support you.
Mm-hmm.
Have a genuine friend that will listen to everything that you do. No judgment.
Yep.
Like, that's just having a social worker to talk to, really.
Right. Right.
Those are easy ways to get help that is little to no cost. I don't know.
Even with people telling their stories in podcasts these days, there's so many, people telling their stories, and you're going to relate somehow to someone's story.
The podcast phenomenon to me is, in a time of the world where men are taking a step back a bit to come around the fire with each other, no matter what the subject is, that men are talking.
Right.
And I feel like women are getting to have their time right now to shine. And it looks good and it feels good in both aspects. It's like women can do dude stuff, right? And maybe
Yeah.
we as guys need to sit around and gossip a little.
Right. Right.
Get
You guys
get
are
better
actually
at
pretty good at it.
get better at
Yeah.
talking,
Yeah.
guys. And
Yeah.
also, but that most important part is like, let's listen, let's feel what these guys are saying,
Right.
because there's a lot of power in it, and it's cool. But and so, my son Benjamin's 8 and Eleanor's 10. My wife is wonderful, and she's put up with a guy that has had a hell of a past, but we decided together as a team that we were going to raise a family together no matter what, and that we want to share these hardships with our kids, and about where and not to be touched in
Absolutely.
inappropriate actions. And like, we don't, in my household, we don't keep secrets,
Same.
because that word is something that can be misconstrued and things like that. So we just really just have surprises for each other, and just have adult conversations with little ones.
Right.
I think they're old enough, and if you do a good job explaining things, like, there's a lot you can talk about to protect them.
It's way better they learn from you than somebody else.
Yeah. And so don't be afraid to talk to them, and I don't know, life's pretty cool.
You did mention something I don't think we've talked about yet, that the water bed comes back around.
Yeah.
Do you still want to touch on that?
So this is how having your own children after being abused affects you, and how trauma comes back to haunt you no matter what you do. And I'm going to tell you this for a reason, is that, like, no matter how much work you put in, it's always going to come back. And potentially every day. The first time I was abused was when I was sleeping in my parents' bed. And so every single night that I put either my daughter or my son to bed, I think about what was my stepfather thinking the very first time he touched my body. And why did you do that? This innocent heartbeat of a child that loves you and is trusting you to protect him, that you took advantage of him for your own pleasure. Every single day, I lay down with my son and I'd say, how could you do this to me? And there's nothing I can do.
Has it made you extremely overprotective?
No. Not like, I don't, like, you can't go in other people's houses, or you can't have sleepovers or anything like that. There's a conversation before they leave about, you're going to go here, there's other adults there. Like, we don't let other people touch us in any way, form. Like, there's, like, you have your private, and you feel uncomfortable, you can always come home. Like, there's all this conversation all the time.
See, you're farther along than me. Even my grandchild, you are not spending the night anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, people can come to our house. Like
Yeah.
my poor girls, what they're 30 and 23
Yeah.
now, never.
There's I will say it's much easier for me to have girls sleep over at our house than boys. Like I don't like I had a for a really long time it was it's not like I couldn't give my kids baths, but I was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it's just me. Like inside me I'm like this and the same thing with like if there's kids that spend like I was like Sean like I'm never going upstairs when the kids are here. Like I can't. Like
Yeah.
it's just I don't know. And I've never had anyone ever been like, this has happened to you. I think you're going to do this to my child. Or
Yeah.
like all of those kind of just like self
Right.
thoughts. All of this that we've talked about, I've never had a person in my life been like, you're gay, that
Right.
you deserve it, that, this, you're lesser of a man. None of these things have ever happened to me, ever.
I always worried more, like even if I knew the parents, or even now if I
Oh,
know
yeah.
the parents well, I always worried more about other friends who are staying, brothers, sisters, or uncles, or,
Sure. Yeah.
but that's my whole thing.
Yeah. And then we don't have anything like that.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't.
Thankfully.
But as I've got to this point, like I published this book in July of last year, and it's kind of a at your own pace kind of thing. I can promote it if I feel like it. I can push the gas on it whenever I feel like it. It's not a necessity for my life to live.
Right.
I want. It's almost like a nonprofit the book that I wish I could just give to everybody. And so, I mean, I feel like I ended up reading Viktor Frankl's book about man's search for meaning, and I really wanted to write this book like his, as like I'm gonna be like a guide, like a cool friend that has like his arm around you to like
Yeah.
show you,
Yeah.
like I'm gonna show you some of my life and put some thoughts into you about what it felt like to live this life, so that when you've come across struggles that are similar to me, that you have a sense you're not alone
Right.
and there's a friend with you. And that's
I
what
love
like
it.
this, Viktor Frankl's books to me is, my interpretation is like, if you continuously live in the past, you'll die. If you look to the future, you'll thrive.
That's a tough one. It's hard not to live in the past or not to go back.
Right? Because in that book, he's watching all these people in a concentration camp wanting to be back in their lives that they used to have. And that's all they dream about is what they used to be, rather than dreaming about what they could be.
Right.
And that's what you got to do.
How'd you come up with this name? No one else can see your fire. Where'd that come from?
All right. So there's like, it's a metaphor of things, and really it's up to you to kind of decipher what that means. But to me, it's like if you were to make a fire, there's different things, different elements that you can add to the fire to either smolder it or to make it ablaze. And it's all in you. Like, it's almost like faith, your mind. Like, I can't see who you are as a person.
Right.
And it's up to you to show the rest of the world it. Like, you got to do it. If there's something in you that you want other people to know, you got to tell them. You got to show it off.
Yeah.
You got to light it on fire. It's
awesome.
And it's just the flames, though, aren't always burning hot. Sometimes it's just a little thing underneath all of the wood that nobody can see. And sometimes that's really hard and dark down there. But hey, you got a friend that come help you out, they can add a little bit of fuel into your fire. And I love that. Like, usually it takes more than one person to light a fire.
Sure.
And it's the same thing with recovery. Like, you got to get help from others.
Absolutely. Is this on Amazon too?
Yeah.
We'll make sure
You
that
can have that. I'll give you these.
Thank you.
And I give you the hardback for you.
Love it.
I gotta like sign.
Can't
I
wait.
I signed these, but I didn't sign.
Oh, I need mine signed.
because I wanted to talk to you first before I wrote in.
Oh. All right. I guess we're gonna close this out. Part 2
All right, Shel.
with Mr. Trevor.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell everybody where you can get your book and
Yeah.
where
I
they can
appreciate
find
having
you?
me on. Thanks for having me.
Loved
Nashville.
it.
It's sweet. What you're doing here is impactful and powerful. All the things you can find me is this trevorbeaman.com. On Instagram, I'm Trevor A. Beaman. It's a lot of just my life living there. There's not, it's just whatever random things that I have that I want to share with the world. And then my book, No One Else Can See Your Fire, is on Amazon. And it's pretty simple to find. And it's a hard copy that you have, which is really nicely done.
Actually, it's a beautiful cover.
And there's also a digital copy and a soft cover.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we'll also put all the same links.
Yeah. I mean, it's all the same stuff. Like I have a YouTube channel, but I don't actively do it because as all this stuff grows up, like it takes time and effort and money, and it's work.
Right. And I really hope that your story, touches a lot of the other, military guys, men or women. I mean,
That's what you didn't ask
so
me.
important.
Why did you want to do all this stuff? What actually really happened?
So
why did I want to come out?
Yeah.
Or more than I was, more aggressively than what I was in the past? Well, when I was in rehab, after telling stories like we've told today,
right.
there was 2 gentlemen there. One was 65, who had spent time in the Navy, and another gentleman was about to retire from the Air Force. And one day, their therapist brought them in individually. They're like, Trevor, these guys want to talk to you. I'm like, okay, well, sure. And the guy in the Army was like, I was raped as a kid, and I've never told anybody in my life. And because of you and your story, I don't live in that prison anymore. I'm like,
even if it was just that one person, you know what I mean?
And then the guy in the Navy, who's 65, black man, he's like, on my very first ship, my very first night, I was raped by a man. And I've held that for 45 years. Thank you. I'm like, okay, all right.
So powerful.
I'm like, I think that's enough for me to tell me that
your story matters.
There's value.
Yes.
The way you see the world, the way you see yourself, the way you see other humans, that you can change the world. That's kind of cool.
Super cool. It's the whole point in this podcast too. Just exactly what you just said. I'm not letting you make me. I'm not letting you make me cry anymore today.
We can spend all day together and talk.
I know. All right.
All right.
I guess we'll wrap this up, and we'll just maybe we'll have a part 3 eventually.